Okay guys, so we're talking about cardio for fat loss. The big question on everyone's mind is, what's the best type of cardio to do? HIIT training, LISS training. I'll tell you all about it, everything you need to know. My trusty whiteboard and my marker pens. So, you've all heard about HIIT training. Okay, that stands for high intensity interval training. HIIT training is short, it's intense, it's short bursts of sprints. Okay, HIIT training burns glycogen, which is stored carbohydrates in the body. So that's the primary energy source when you're doing HIIT training. So in itself, HIIT training is not necessarily a fat burning exercise, it's actually a glycogen burning exercise, but because of the intensity of the movements, you will burn fat after the event. We call that EPOC, or like the afterburn effect, similar to what you get with the other type of cardio. I'll probably refer to that as LISS, which is low intensity, steady state. That's the boring stuff that you do on a treadmill or a bike for probably 30, 40, 50 minutes. Kind of thing that you'll see bodybuilders do in the last stage of their prep. Now this is the kind of thing where you're going to be in your fat burning zone that you've surely heard about. So let's think about LISS as being a fat burning exercise, okay? So, does this mean we should just be doing LISS training because we want to burn fat? Not really. It's interesting because I'll show you another diagram that explains how this energy balance makes it a little bit more complicated.
Another key factor you'd want to consider when you're thinking about cardio is how lean are you? So in my experience, the fatter you are or the more body fat you have got to lose, the less I would be doing cardio. And again, the more I would focus on your diet, your calories, your macros.
So if we look at this graph, very, very simple, explains this concept of how energy utilization and intensity change over time. So on the left side of the graph, on this axis, we have got fat burning at the bottom, glycogen burning or carbs at the top. Across here we have intensity. So that's basically how hard we're working, probably how high our heart rate is and how much strain we're doing with the movement. So I think of intensity would be like something like sprinting, and low intensity would be something like walking. As your intensity increases, the amount of glycogen that we burn actually tends to increase, and it actually peaks and pretty much comes a straight vertical line as we reach maximum heart rate. So what does this actually mean to you if you're trying to lose fat using cardio? It means that yes, the percentage of fat that you burn might be lower at lower intensities, and actually you're going to be pretty much burning pure glycogen at the top. But what we might consider to be an optimal fat burning zone is somewhere in the middle here. So somewhere around here, you know, you've probably heard 120 to 140 beats a minute. Okay, so this is a nice simple explanation of that concept.
So personally, I've got a fair bit of time available today because it's Saturday, it's a leisure day, so I'm going to try and get about an hour of cardio done. I've got a deadline to hit, so I want to get as much fat off me. So I'm going to head and do some intervals and then some LISS training.
So one important thing to consider finally, when you're thinking about what kind of like zone to be doing your cardio in, whether to be doing higher intensity, lower intensity, which one's going to give you the most body fat to be burnt. If we imagine that on the left here, we've got 200 calories of energy being expended, and we're using a lower intensity. At a lower intensity, we're burning more body fat. So in this case, something around about 60% of the fuel that's used is body fat, 40% is glycogen. So out of 200 calories, we've burnt this much fat, okay, this much carbs. So more fat than carbs. As the intensity goes up, what's happening is we're burning more calories overall, and although the ratios are more even, so it's an even fat to carbohydrate burn, so in theory you're burning potentially less fat, because your calorie expenditure is that much greater, we have this much fat being burnt. So it's another example of why sticking with that traditional, very low intensity fat burning zone might not be the best way to burn fat. And that's why maybe working up towards something which is under your lactate threshold, which could be up as far as 150 BPM, has been shown in a few research studies to be the optimal time for your fat oxidation. So yeah, bear these things in mind and choose your cardio zones wisely. Happy fat burning.